Welcome. Today's topic takes us thousands of years into the past, to the early civilizations of the ancient East, where the first cities, trade, and systems of life began. Imagine a world without cities, roads, or writing. Thousands of years ago, humanity lived a life on the move, hunting and gathering, constantly searching for food. But then, everything changed. It all began along the banks of four mighty rivers: the Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, the Nile in Egypt, the Indus in the Indian subcontinent, and the Honghe in China. People discovered something incredible. When these rivers flooded, they left behind a gift: rich, fertile soil. They realized that if they could control the water, they could grow crops reliably. And if they could grow crops, they didn't have to move anymore. This simple but profound realization marked the birth of the first civilizations. Of course, the rivers were both a blessing and a curse. They provided water and soil, but their floods could be devastating, wiping out homes and fields in an instant. To survive, early communities had to work together. They built dikes and embankments to hold back the floodwaters and dug complex networks of canals to guide the water where it was needed most. During floods, the canals channeled excess water away. During dry seasons, they brought life-giving water to the thirsty fields. These irrigation systems were incredible feats of engineering that required immense planning and organization. This is where early rulers became essential. They organized the labor, maintained the canals, and ensured a steady food supply for everyone. Thanks to this newfound control over water, harvests boomed, populations grew, and what were once small villages transformed into permanent settlements. With a stable food supply, these settlements didn't just grow. They exploded into the first cities in human history. Places with names that echo through time: Ur, Uruk, and Babylon in Mesopotamia, Memphis and Thebes in Egypt. These weren't just collections of houses. Behind their protective walls, you'd find bustling markets, workshops buzzing with activity, grand temples, and sprawling palaces. The streets were alive with merchants, craftsmen, soldiers, and priests. Cities became the vibrant centers of politics, religion, trade, and culture, the heartbeats of these new societies. But no city could thrive in isolation. Different regions had different resources. One area might have abundant grain, while another had wood, stone, or valuable metals. This natural imbalance created the need for trade. Initially, it was simple barter, exchanging goods directly. Rivers served as the first highways, with boats carrying loads of grain, pottery, tools, and textiles from one city to another. Over land, traders formed caravans, creating vital links between distant regions. Trade brought wealth, but it also carried something far more valuable: ideas. Writing systems, new technologies, and religious beliefs all traveled along these trade routes, weaving a web that connected and enriched these emerging civilizations. Speaking of traders, one group stood out as the masters of the ancient seas: the Phoenicians. They were brilliant sailors and shipbuilders who ventured all across the Mediterranean, connecting the great powers of Mesopotamia and Egypt with far-flung lands. They established trading colonies and acted as the crucial middlemen of the ancient world. But their greatest legacy wasn't gold or exotic goods. It was the alphabet, a simple, elegant writing system that would later influence the Greek and Roman scripts, and eventually the very letters we use today. As cities swelled in size and complexity, keeping order became a major challenge. This led to the rise of powerful kings and pharaohs. People believed these rulers were chosen by the gods, or were even gods themselves. Kings commanded armies, oversaw massive construction projects like temples and canals, and collected taxes to fund the state. To maintain justice and fairness, they created the first written law codes. The most famous of these is the Code of Hammurabi, etched into a towering stone slab for all to see. These laws clearly defined what was allowed, what was forbidden, and the punishments for breaking the rules, providing the structure needed for a complex society to function. Religion was woven into the fabric of daily life. People worshipped a pantheon of gods and goddesses who controlled the forces of nature, the sun, the rain, fertility, and war. At the heart of every city stood the temple. In Mesopotamia, these took the form of massive step towers called ziggurats, which they believed were stairways connecting heaven and earth. The most legendary ziggurat stood in Babylon, dedicated to the god Marduk. Towering over the city, it was a breathtaking symbol of Babylon's power, wealth, and devotion. Inside these temples worked the priests, who were among the most educated people of their time. They were scholars who studied the stars, recorded history, healed the sick, and taught writing and mathematics. They painstakingly preserved knowledge on clay tablets, creating the world's first libraries. The first schools were actually part of the temples, where young boys learned to read, write, count, and understand religious texts. Later, city schools emerged to train the next generation of scribes, officials, and traders, the essential administrators who kept the machinery of the state running. The sky itself was a source of endless fascination and vital information. Night after night, ancient observers charted the movements of the sun, the moon, and the stars. From these careful observations, astronomy was born, along with the first calendars. For farmers, this knowledge was life or death. The calendar told them when the floods would arrive, when to plant their crops, and when to harvest. Understanding the rhythms of the sky meant survival. The practical needs of daily life also drove incredible advances in mathematics. People needed to measure land, count their harvests, calculate profits from trade, and design monumental buildings. This spurred the development of geometry and arithmetic. Medicine also took its first steps. Healers learned to treat injuries, use medicinal herbs, and even perform simple surgeries. While their practices were often mixed with religious rituals, their early medical knowledge saved lives and eased suffering. Of course, the ancient world wasn't always peaceful. While early states engaged in diplomacy, forming alliances and trade agreements, they also frequently went to war. They fought over fertile land, access to water, and control of valuable trade routes. Armies were equipped with ever-improving metal weapons, first made of bronze and later, the much stronger iron. Cities also faced threats from migrating peoples from the surrounding mountains and less fertile regions. To protect themselves, they built massive walls, fortified gates, and defensive towers. These migrations often brought conflict, but they also brought change. New peoples introduced new technologies, fresh ideas, and different cultures, constantly reshaping the civilizations of the ancient East. From the first seeds planted in fertile river soil to the rise of sprawling cities and powerful empires, the civilizations of the ancient East laid the foundation for our modern world. They gave us law, science, trade, and written knowledge. Their incredible journey is the story of humanity's first great leap forward. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from our shared past.